The morning sun barely broke through the Arlington mist, but the tomb guard stood unwavering, his boots clicking in perfect rhythm. 21 steps, pause, turn, repeat. A crowd watched hushed as his rifle gleamed against the sacred marble of the tomb of the unknown soldier. Then came the shout, sharp and venomous, from a man in a suit worth more than most people's homes. "You're just a prop," he sneered, stepping over the rope, his voice daring the guard to flinch. The crowd froze, sensing a storm. What no one knew, not the tourists, not the man's trembling assistant, was that this tomb guard, silent and stoic, had faced enemy fire in Syria and carried scars no one could see. And in seconds, one reckless act would unravel a billionaire's empire and reveal a truth about power no money could buy. Before we dive into this story, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe that values like honor, courage, and sacrifice still matter, join us in keeping their legacy alive. The autumn morning at Arlington National Cemetery was crisp, the kind of day where the Virginia air carried a faint chill, sharp enough to sting the lungs, and the leaves glowed in shades of gold and crimson under a pale cloud-streaked sun. The cemetery stretched across rolling hills, its rows of white headstones standing like silent sentinels, each one etched with names, dates, and stories of sacrifice. At the heart of this sacred ground stood the tomb of the unknown soldier, its marble surface gleaming with a quiet, unshakable dignity. A crowd of tourists, families, and veterans gathered at a respectful distance, their voices hushed, their footsteps soft on the stone plaza. Some clutched guidebooks, others held cameras, but all felt the weight of the place, a place where history wasn't just remembered, but lived. Ryan Mitchell, a sentinel of the tomb, moved with a precision that bordered on the mechanical, yet carried a profound grace. 21 steps, a pause, a sharp turn, the click of his polished boots echoing in the stillness, the rifle shifting from one shoulder to the other with textbook accuracy. His navy blue uniform was immaculate, every crease sharp, every button gleaming. The tomb guard badge on his chest caught the morning light, a small but proud symbol of his duty. At 28, Ryan was tall, 6'1", with brown hair cropped close to his scalp and green eyes that stayed fixed on an unseen point in the distance. His face was unreadable, a mask of discipline forged through years of training and a tour in Syria, where he'd earned a silver star for pulling his squad through a brutal ambush. His scars, both visible and hidden, were carried with the same quiet resolve as his rifle. The crowd watched in reverent silence. A young boy no older than 8 tugged at his father's sleeve, his voice a loud whisper. "Dad, why does he walk like that? Doesn't he get tired?" The father, a broad-shouldered man in a flannel jacket, knelt beside his son, his voice low but warm. "It's about respect, Tommy, for the soldiers who gave everything and never came home. Those guys in the tomb, they don't have names anymore, but he's making sure we don't forget them." Nearby, an elderly man stood with his teenage granddaughter, his worn coat adorned with a regimental pin from World War II. Harold Bennett, 78, had seen combat in the Pacific, and his weathered face held a mix of pride and sorrow as he watched Ryan's measured steps. He leaned down to his granddaughter, Emily, his voice rough but steady. "This is what duty looks like, Em. Not many understand it anymore." Emily nodded, her eyes wide, clutching a small American flag she'd bought at the visitor center. The reverent quiet was shattered by the low hum of a sleek, black Mercedes SUV pulling up near the plaza's edge. Its polished surface reflected the golden leaves, and its presence felt out of place, like a shout in a library. The driver, a nervous man in a black suit named Davis, scrambled to open the rear door, but Victor Langston was already stepping out, his impatience radiating like heat. At 55, Victor was the embodiment of corporate power. Silver hair swept back with meticulous care, a bespoke charcoal suit tailored to his lean frame, and a Rolex Daytona glinting on his wrist, its gold face catching the sun. His gray eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the scene with a mix of disdain and boredom. "Too slow, Davis," he snapped, brushing past the driver without a glance. "We're on a schedule, and I don't have time for dawdling." His executive assistant, Margaret Hayes, a sharp woman in her mid-30s, hurried to keep pace, her navy blazer pristine and her iPad clutched tightly. She tapped at the screen, her voice professional but edged with caution. "Sir, the Tech Summit venue meeting is at 2 in DC. We could have handled this remotely, save some time." Victor waved her off, his tone sharp. "I don't trust photos or virtual tours. If Langston Innovations is going to host the biggest AI summit this city's ever seen, I need to see the space myself." He gestured dismissively at the cemetery, though why anyone would pick this dusty old graveyard over a modern conference center is beyond me. Victor's voice carried, slicing through the hushed reverence like a blade. A few tourists glanced over, their brows furrowing. A woman in a red coat whispered to her husband, "Who does he think he is?" Harold Bennett's jaw tightened, his hand resting protectively on Emily's shoulder. He'd heard men like Victor before, men who thought their wealth made them untouchable. Victor strolled toward the tomb, his polished shoes clicking loudly on the stone path, drawing more eyes. Margaret trailed behind, her expression tense, her heels clicking softer, but no less urgent. "Sir, this is Arlington National Cemetery. It's not just the venue. It's a graveyard." Margaret Victor cut her off, his scoff loud enough to turn heads. "A monument to the past, nothing more. My company's reshaping the future. AI, quantum computing, global markets, that's real power. This," he waved at the tomb, his Rolex flashing, "this is a tourist trap, plain and simple." The crowd's murmurs grew, a mix of discomfort and irritation. A man in a veteran's cap standing near his wife muttered, "Typical DC hotshot. Thinks he owns the place." A young couple with a stroller stepped back, the mother whispering, "This guy's trouble." Harold leaned toward Emily, his voice barely audible. "Some folks think money buys respect. They're wrong." Victor, oblivious to the growing unease, stopped just beyond the velvet rope that separated the crowd from the tomb's plaza. His eyes narrowed as he studied Ryan, who continued his march with unwavering precision. "Look at this guy," Victor said, his voice loud enough to carry across the plaza. "A living statue. What's the point of this?" Margaret shifted uncomfortably, her fingers tightening around her iPad. "Sir, the tomb guards are elite soldiers." "They're not just elite," Victor interrupted, his laugh sharp and cutting at Margaret. "Marching in circles like a wind-up toy? My engineers code algorithms that run the world, while this guy plays dress-up for selfies." He pulled out his phone, snapping a quick photo of Ryan. "I'll use this in my keynote. Tradition versus progress. Guess which one wins every time?" Harold's face darkened, his hands clenching behind his back. Emily whispered, "Grandpa, why is he being so rude?" Harold's voice was low, steady. "He's got money, Em, but no class. Men like him don't understand sacrifice." The crowd's tension grew palpable. A father explained to his daughter, "That man's not supposed to talk like that here.
is disrespectful. Victor, sensing the attention, leaned into it, his voice rising. You know, Margaret, in Silicon Valley, we'd automate this job. A robot could march better than this guy and cost less. He checked his watch, a deliberate gesture meant to underscore his importance. Time's money, Em, and mine's. Mine's worth more than anyone in this crowd. Ryan's face remained impassive, his eyes fixed forward. But those who knew the tomb guards could see the subtle tension in his posture, the coiled readiness of a soldier who'd faced worse than a loudmouth CEO in the deserts of Syria. His tour there taught him to stay calm under fire, to hold the line when chaos threatened. Victor, sensing no reaction, grew bolder, his voice taking on a mocking edge.